Welcome to the Best Hour of Their Day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez
and me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
as both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day.
Welcome back. Best hour of their day. It's always strange when we go from these live episodes to virtual again.
Sucks. But we're happy you guys are listening.
Yeah, the in-person ones are so much better. I can't wait for this. These episodes we just did in Colorado, they're gonna be pretty badass. Which was your favorite, guys?
I think Nicole Christensen.
You know what?
Tosh was great.
Yeah,
you know,
my top two also.
I posted that picture from Nicole last night.
They were very different podcasts.
For sure. But I posted that picture of Nicole last night, and in it, I'm like, I don't want to say it was my favorite because we had so many great. We had Tosh, Justin Berg, Kevin Ogar, like some amazing interviews. Yeah, Amal, like great interviews.
Yep.
Obviously, you'll see them all, but I think the reason we all enjoyed that Nicole one so much is it wasn't about who she is. Like, obviously, we respect her. She's well known in our circle, but it was just literally four OGs talking OG stuff. But like every time you do that, it comes back to the realization and reminds you of like, hey, do the basics, do them well, and uphold the standard, as she kept saying.
Standard is a standard.
The standard is the damn standard.
And you're not
anyway,
special.
And you're not special. Speaking of that, Katie, what did Fern say to you?
I told Jay yesterday, Fern, how when we were talking in Jay's garage, when he went inside to go to the bathroom, I made us all wait outside in Best Hour CrossFit. And I made a comment about how cold it was. And you told me to stop complaining.
Was not great customer service. Yeah.
Just
everything about the experience at Best Hour of Their Day was really subpar.
Best Hour CrossFit. Yeah, I didn't want you guys to join, hence my plan worked. By the way, you guys came like literally the 4 worst days of the year because you left Friday. That afternoon, I was working out outdoors, shirt off, as well as Saturday and Sunday, and I'm about to do it later today as well. So
yeah, I'm not buying
it. You saw the pictures. I sent you the pictures.
No, we talked about this on the podcast with Dave Kalina. He's like, then we had the 100-year storm, and then the world burned down. I'm like, this place sucks. I don't know why everybody wants to move here. Like,
dude, speaking of CrossFit Roots, check that out. CrossFit Roots shirt, but it's nice out. It was nice out, and it still is today. Anyway, let's dig in. Fern's got daddy duty. What's up? Logan's got to get some teeth pulled?
Oh, no, they're just falling out at an alarming rate at this point.
Is she dropping them down the sink, or is she keeping them all?
No, we've managed to keep the other ones. Although I feel like the tooth fairy has been charging more money for these lately.
What does a tooth go for these days, Papa?
I think at least $1.
Dude, I was getting $1 like in the 80s. You got to be giving Logan. Come on, I know what you're getting paid. You can go at least $2.
We're teaching capitalism. You don't just get paid to do nothing. Yeah.
I remember I did actually used to get a $2 bill.
Hey, and by the way, I pulled the tooth out. So who's getting paid here?
Fair enough. Maybe Logan knows you. But my dad used to give me $2 bills. Katie, what's the deal with $2 bills?
$2 bills? Like one bill that's worth $2?
No, she doesn't even know that there is.
Oh my goodness,
$2 bills.
Do you really not know that there's a thing?
Well, it's very rare if we're going to be very honest.
Yeah, but why do they make them? Do they print them every year, right?
Oh, I have no idea. If you give somebody a $2 bill, though, they're going to look at you with like you have two heads.
You may as well give them a $1 coin, right? Like, what's up with that one too? Like, there's an issue. Look.
So the vending machine that we have that I'm trying to get rid of, not because of any other reason, we just like moved to do a new process, but like it takes $1 coins and it gives change in $1 coins.
That's the worst. That is the worst when you buy.
If you wanted to buy something that was $1 and you put a $5 bill in there, you're getting 4 $1 coins back.
A $2 bill, they were issued in 1862. They are highly collectible and worth at least $100 in well-circulated condition.
That doesn't even
There's
make
no,
sense.
yeah, there's no way a $2 bill is worth $100.
Well, because I guess when they're so rare.
Yeah, maybe a bill from the 1800s, like all of them are then, but like you can get modern day $2 bills.
That's
Oh.
like coins.
Yeah.
Which just leads me to the whole discussion that money is fake. You're like, this 25-cent coin is worth $485. I'm like, I don't think you know how this works.
I've been telling you to get some Bitcoin for quite some time. This is why.
Bitcoin's down like a 50% over the past 3 months.
It's on sale, baby. Buy it now. Look, today's January 31st, 2020.
I hope they regulate it. I don't hope they regulate it. I only hope they regulate it for the sake of you losing money. That's the only reason I hope they regulate it.
Regulated won't crush it, but for someone like you,
It's not going to help it. It's not going to help it.
It won't, but it just shows that it's real.
It's been real. I was on the Bitcoin train in like 2011, bro.
How many Bitcoins?
You go back and look at my Instagram feed
Yeah.
when I posted something on there about the first time I heard about this, like well before that, I think. And then I was watching, it was the Bitcoin Bowl for college football season. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I had been tinfoil hatting like way before that.
Yet you still don't have any, which
It's
at
a
that
verb
time
now.
you would be.
Oh, you don't know what I have. You don't know what I have.
I know you don't have any Bitcoin.
Yeah.
This is
I
a
know you
great
don't.
segue into our topic today.
Good point.
How so?
It's not.
knowing
We
what
just-
knowing what you're talking about. Yeah, knowing what you're talking about is a good segue.
Well, good thing I know what I'm talking about. What are we talking about?
Points of performance.
That Jay doesn't know.
I know them all. I can name them
So
all.
I just got off of a level 2. So I'll test you, Jay. Points of performance, air squat, go.
Come on, dude. Come on.
This is what
I'm the
somebody does
king.
when they're trying to think. This is what
I am the
somebody does when they're trying
king
to think.
of the points of performance of the air squat. Heels, knees, depth, arch, line of action.
Well, that's definitely not how it's written in the level 1 manual, but I'll give you
I'm
that.
reworking it. I gotta email Nicole later and tell her we're changing it.
Listen, that's fine, James. We're just gonna make our own stuff. No, but so this is a
I got
Yeah.
your reference. I get your
yeah. It took a little bit, but I'm glad you caught on. This comes up. So I could almost go so far as to say this. If you haven't taken level 2, don't be silly. Just go take your level 2. Okay.
I don't understand the delay, to be quite honest.
I think it's a little bit fear. I think it's a little bit of lethargy, or just
Here, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a moment. Maybe we're not doing a good enough job as a brand expressing the importance and value to attending your level 2. I said it, and then
maybe. I mean,
yeah.
I think content helps. No, but where I was going with that is, you can almost take every coaching piece almost that somebody would get feedback in a level 2 setting and revert that back and reverse engineer it and come to the conclusion that this is a result of you not knowing the points of performance. Whether we're talking group management, presence and attitude, seeing, correcting, demonstration, it all comes back to what if we in the Foundations of Effective Training lecture, we talk about teaching, and that's internal. So there's 2 pieces of that. There's internal knowledge, which is points of performance, faults, progressions, and then there's external, which is how that is communicated, which gets communicated in a lot of ways. It gets communicated verbally. It gets communicated with my plan for how I'm going to progress through a series of teaching movements or progressions. It can be how you lay out the classroom. It can be based on what you emphasize for the day. But it all comes back to the points of performance. And the crazy part is there's really not that many of them, and people fail to know them every single time. And every time I do that, I just walk the dog back from there, and I'm like, so if what you teach will then emphasize what you focus on, will then emphasize where your eyes go, which will then emphasize what you cue, which can also be overlaid into how you manage the group, meaning how I move around. How I move around the group is dictated by the points of performance. So my challenge to everybody is like, you need to go back and you need to learn all of those. And I was like, there was a guy at the course, good dude, and who I've done some work with in the past. And I kind of put him on the spot. He was teaching the shout out Kirk. He was teaching the push press. And I asked him, I was like, hey, like, we're just going to do this. I was like, you and I are comfortable. I'm going to put you on the spot. Points of performance for the push press. He was like, feet under the hips. And I was like, no.
Hands outside the shoulders.
Hands outside the shoulder. And I was like, no. And
that's a mistake so many people make, by the way. Just you ask for the points of performance and they start going into the setup.
Yeah, stance and grip. And which I get, right? And I'm fully empathetic to the fact that this is a, kind of a pressure situation and it's in front of other people and it was kind of an off the cuff question. But my contention is it should matter. Like, you should know that stuff, because if you're using mental resources to search for that information now, I for sure can guarantee that you're using those same resources when you should be giving a cue. Right. And that's where I want to work back from there is your ability to be efficient with regard to seeing, correcting, general speech, how you move around the room. All of those things are predicated in how much time I have to take to recall information that should be readily available.
Well, I think a good analogy there would be, you and I watch a lot of the comedy specials on Netflix or these other channels, right? And you watch a really great comedian, and imagine if they had to stumble for the words. Like, they've got their material down so tight that now they can be really funny. Now they can veer off in different paths.
Presence and
somebody
attitude.
Heckles them, right?
You can work it way back.
Yeah, and no different than our lectures, right? The first time you give a lecture, we talked with Kevin Ogar about this at Watchtower. You're just studying, and you're basically going to repeat the lecture verbatim like you're reading a book. Second one, I'll throw in one joke, right? Third one, maybe a second one. But it's the same here. Like, if you understand the points of performance in this case, or just the material, the content. And I think that's really what we're getting at, right, Fern? Like, how are you a coach if you don't know the content? Like, this is the only content you need to know, because like you said, the teaching, the seeing, the correcting, even the group management and presence and attitude all comes from knowing that, because otherwise you're just a circus clown with keeping it fun and organizing the group, but you're not actually leading anything.
Well, I was listening to Joe Rogan talk about this. I forget who he was talking to, but he was discussing the comedians, and I don't remember what the context of the discussion was about, but he was delineating between somebody who's really good and somebody who's not, and the delineation largely had to do with the economy of words. So with regard to a joke, he was explaining that a well-executed joke only has so many words. If you have too many words, then you give away the punchline, or they will come to a different conclusion than you, at which point it ruins the joke. And I would argue that coaching is the same. If I'm giving too many words or I'm giving too much information, what it lends itself to is somebody coming to the wrong conclusion, or they're spending resources trying to solve a riddle that I accidentally made, rather than just paying attention and doing what I told them, so that they can just follow the story along. And I think if you do this well, and for the record, this does take practice. However, my contention is that it doesn't take nearly as much practice as people think it does. I think you could be just a point of performance, fault, progression stud, or studette. Is there a female version of that? I don't know. Whatever. If you focus on that for 2 weeks, if you spent 15 minutes a day going over those things for 2 weeks, you would know them cold. At which point, I wouldn't need to think about them anymore, because then I could easily lay them into my plan, and it would be cemented into my brain, and I'd say, okay, I'm doing the dip and hold for the push press, and that is intended to highlight vertical torso, which is the first point of performance. So it layers over, okay, I'm using the progression, but why am I using the progression? I'm using the progression to highlight a point of performance. At which point, okay, well, I'm doing this because I know that the vertical torso, shoulders stacked over hips, is is one of the point of performance for the push press. So I teach that, and then therefore I look for it. And then therefore when it is incorrect, because I know that those two faults are forward or muted, then I correct it. And then this also dictates how I move around to see the fault, ergo group management. But it all goes back to, what are the points of performance? If you don't have that information, the rest of it is a moot point. It doesn't matter. All of the other stuff is irrelevant information.
Yeah, I think where you and I differ is you get not worked up, but your premise is like these are important, and my premise is always like I don't understand how coaches don't know these. Like so many coaches out there, and probably many that are listening.
Go ahead.
Well, they want to supposedly be a great coach. They want to get a level 2, a level 3, level 4. They want to maybe open their own box one day, and it's like this is the minimal work requirement. Like you talk about it at the games, like you have to do at least 15 thrusters to get a score. Like if you don't even know the points of performance of the 9 foundational movements, like if you're listening right now, you know whether you know them or not. And if you don't, I would tell you, like, you don't actually care about coaching, or somewhere along the way, you got misguided and thought coaching is X when it's really Y. Because the other thing about everything you're saying, Fern, is you can do this at home. You can literally be on your toilet pooping, learning the points of performance. You don't have to be coaching in a box. Like you can, have it pulled up on your phone, a screensaver made, and just study them, because it's everything you're going to do. And I know there will be some listeners that are like, but it's only the 9 foundational movements. Guess what? You learn the sumo deadlift high pull. Yeah. And you learn the overhead squat. You now have the points of performance for the snatch. Timing, high elbow position, active shoulders in the receiving position. Like you have that from there. And it's just simply the basics. Let's dive into.
Before you do that, yeah, I'm happy to do that. We can list them out if you'd like.
I don't know. I don't want to list them out. I want to show people the value in what you're saying, which is if you learn these, look at the 6 criteria. We've got it on lockdown.
Well, where I was going this is I think it's because people don't really understand the why. I think if people really grasp the why this is important and what that would yield, they would spend more time on it. And it seems ridiculous, but I'm like, listen, if you learn the points of performance, which by default, you kind of know the faults at that point. Like you would need to put a little time in there, but it's really easy if you just start with the points of performance. Just know the points of performance. Like the opposite of that is now a fault. Okay, that's your answer. Everything else is easier. Everything is easier. Teaching is easier and simpler. Seeing is easy and simpler. Correcting is easy and simpler. Group management is easy and simpler. Presence and attitude is easy and simpler. Demonstration now becomes easy and simpler simply because I have the baseline grasp of the points of performance of these movements. And you're like, well, what about they're not there just because they're there. They're not there for the sake of just having them. They're based on mechanical advantage, functionality, and safety. That's why we need to know them. And if you just spend that time, and this is what I was kind of talking to a group about this weekend. I'm like, do you guys want this to be fun? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, right, it should be fun. It will not be fun until you know this. It will not. There is no scenario in which it is fun, because you're not going to be good at it. You might be fooling yourself into I'm having a good time. But it's fun. My dad used to have this running joke, like in high school. It's like still a joke between me and my friends and like many, many guys that played for him. I think might have been a junior, senior, doesn't matter. But one of the younger guys on the team, like we had just lost a game, and I don't know, he was yelling at us for something, but because like, we just want to have fun, coach. And his response was, he's like, fun?
Winning is fun.
He's like, fun? Fuck fun. He's like, what's fun? Winning is fun. He's like, that's what's fun. I don't care if you're having fun, because if you're winning, you're having fun. So you're trying to have fun absent of winning, and that's not how sports work. And to take that analogy and roll it over to coaching, what's fun? Being good at something. That's what's fun. This is when you get to interact with people, and this is when you get to really deep dive and talk about the things like Ford, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. It becomes fun when I've done my homework so that I can free up my brain to actually interact with the human beings that are standing in front of me. That's when it becomes fun. That's when impact really starts to happen. When there is a problem presented to me, either by the athlete's movement or they have a question that I have the answer to. That's fun. Improving people's movement is fun. Improving people's fitness is fun. That is fun. Running a clock is not fun. I can do that anywhere, anytime, and have no impact on anybody. But really digging into the art of coaching, that's fun. In order to do that, there's some things that we need to know, starting with the points of performance.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at. I think there's just a disconnect for some reason. I think, like, I will say this is part of it. The journey to be on seminar staff required us to really learn those, not just for the lectures. Obviously, we give the lectures weekend after we 300 times, the press lecture, the deadline. So they just become ingrained. But even prior to that, I think it was just understood. Hey, you want to make it on staff, you need to be great at the circle, the breakout groups. And to get great at the breakout groups, you need to learn the points of performance. So we just kind of understood that. Hence, my coaches did, hence your coaches did. But for some reason, I think the average coach out there who doesn't, takes the level 1 and they just go back to their affiliate and start coaching, no one's there telling them, like, these are the basics for a reason and they're vital. Like, because here's what I want to do. What I was going to get at is let's take one such as let's take the push press. That's a great example, right? So we know the points of performance of the push press are relative to the torso angle, the timing of the movement, and the speed of the movement. Those are the points of performance in the push press, right? We didn't talk before
More specifically, vertical torso, core to extremity, and then speed and timing. Yes.
Yeah, we use the words, we simplify. That's my heels, knees, depth arch, line of action. It's just my way of remembering them, but I know where to look at for the faults and also to see if they're being done well. So walk us through what that looks like, Fern. You say, well, it makes this, group management well, it makes presence and attitude easier, even, to some extent, you can argue demonstration, right? Because if I know the points of performance, I'm going to try to hit them. Right. And then obviously, teaching, seeing, and correcting. One thing I have said multiple times over the years is, and I could probably speak for you as well, it's like, we don't see movement better than you. We know where to look better than you. And because we know where to look, we see the faults. Like, can I tell that someone's vertical torso is like cantilevered at 1 degree forward? Probably not. But because I'm looking there, I'm going to be more likely to notice it and see it than the average person.
I was just thinking about this because the points of performance, think of them as like the rules of the game. If I know the rules of the game, now I know how to operate inside of the game. But if you don't know the rules of the game, let's just say basketball. If you didn't know that there was out of bounds, you know that it's 94 feet long by 50 feet wide, and that the free throw line is 15 feet and it's 10-foot high goal, and that if you put it in there, it's 2 points, and then it's 3 points if you shoot it behind this line. Well, then you're just running around like an idiot, right? Like maybe throwing the basketball instead of dribbling it because you have to dribble it while you run. So when we're talking about the points of performance, those are the rules of the game. And if I know the rules of the game, well, then it's much more easy for me to navigate. I know if I violate this rule, then I have to give the ball to the other team. So if I don't know the rules with regard to the push press, that in order to do this correctly, that I need a vertical torso. And when I go through the extension portion of this, that I need to make sure that the knees and the hips extend before the bar leaves and hands off to the hands. And that timing at the bottom of the dip is actually what allows us to move this efficiently. Well, if I know that those are the rules of the game, well, then I craft how I teach this based on the rules of the game. So I'm going to teach them like, hey guys, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set you guys up like this because it allows me to see better, right? Because I want to see vertical torso in the push press. Well, I'm not going to stand head on to see vertical torso because that would be stupid. I'm not going to be able to see it. But that's only if I know the rules of the game. So then I'll either turn them or I will move. And if I show them the demo, I'm not going to show them facing them. I'm going to show them a profile because I want them to see this because this is the rule. Right?
You know what you made me think of? Well, just to go along with your, basketball analogy, it's very similar to watching a referee in UFC or MMA. Like they're putting themselves in the right position to a level that the average viewer doesn't understand. So, for example, you watch someone standing orthodox, the left hand may be a little bit higher. So the ref will purposely go on the right hand side to see more, right? So, like, just knowing a little bit more about the fighters you're dealing with, as well as the rules of the fight, changes your perspective. And the referee in that scenario is probably closer to the coach in this one, right? The fighters are fighting. They're going to do their best to obey the rules, just like a basketball player. But the referee or the coach is the one that has to uphold these rules.
Well, it's also allows you to predict the future. And like coaching CrossFit should be like an open book test. You should know all the answers. There's only so many things that are going to unfold. So I know that breaking the rules would be either a forward inclination of the chest, for at least for vertical torso, or a muted hip in that position. Well, then I'm going to position myself in where I can catch that and prevent it, if at all possible, because I don't want that to happen. That's like throwing the ball out of bounds. Well, don't throw it out of bounds, but I know the rule. So when you're talking about this, like that's what the points of performance are. They're the rules of the game, and which sounds insane. Be like, we're going to play this game and you don't know the rules? Well, this isn't going to go well. That just sounds dumb.
That's a really good way to put it, because now it's you want to play this game called coaching, because really we're talking coaching, right?
You
If you
know
want
the
to be
rules.
right, if you want to be the mover, the athlete in this scenario, and move improperly, that's on you. But as a coach, it's our job to reinforce good movement, the rules, if you will. And if you don't know the rules, like you're doing yourself and all of your members a disservice.
Right.
And it's no wonder that you're talking about a level 2 that you coached this weekend. Well, it's no wonder to me that someone took their level 1 4 or 5 years ago and they look like they've never coached before, because they don't know the rules. Yeah.
Right. You end up in that. What was the home game? What was that one where they just beat the shit out of each other, Katie? Yeah, it ends up looking like that.
Calcio Storico. Yeah.
Calcio Storico. If you haven't seen that on Netflix, you should go watch it.
What
It ends up looking like that. That's what
this?
your small group breakout. You weren't at the Airbnb with us having a good time because we didn't want you. But it's a Netflix series where it's like rugby and Smear the Queer all at the same time. Doesn't look pleasant.
You definitely can't say that, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's an old game.
Rugby and MMA. It was like fighting.
MMA,
yeah.
But
Kill
the point
carrier.
was,
Kill the carrier.
it's complete chaos. Like you're like, what is happening here? Like nobody knows what's going on.
Oh, is this the one that they're playing in like once a year in like that country?
Yes.
Like, I did see that.
It's in Italy. Yeah.
In Italy.
So it's kind of like that, right? Which is like just like that is chaos, and it's not productive.
People die and get hurt every year. Probably.
It might be fun, but it's definitely not productive. So that's it. Just to make a joke on that, but
it'd be like bullfighting. Like bullfighting is like another one.
Right.
Like, what's the rules?
There's rules.
I don't know, but the bull certainly doesn't know.
Yeah. Don't get gorged. Yeah, that's the rule. So, but that's the way I want people to think about it. I'm like, you would never play a game without knowing the rules. Like that would just be silly. Like you wouldn't sit down to a card table and start betting money if you didn't know the rules. Like it just wouldn't happen. You're like, this seems unfair and ridiculous. And this is the same thing. It is both unfair and ridiculous. It's unfair to the athletes that I'm interacting with, and also ridiculous saying that I would coach without knowing the rules of the game. So spend some time there. And again, I really want to reiterate this. This is not a 6-month process. This is 10 to 15 minutes a day for 2 weeks. There's only so many of them, right? And most of them have tremendous overlap over the 3, if we're talking about the 9 foundational movements. Right. I think on the high end points of performance across one set, what are we looking at? 10, maybe 9, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3.
For how many points of performance there are?
Yeah, across like the squats, the presses.
The squat is 5, 2, and 2. I think.
Yeah.
I think
we
learn a lot of the faults. The deadlift is 7
points of performance. Yeah. Right.
So, and that, again, that's just from years of practice. But like Fern's saying, learn the rules or don't play at all. And when you learn the rules, it makes it so much easier. Like, cool, you're either, like we say, Fern, it's like binary, yes or no. This isn't Monopoly. Do we put $500 under free parking? Like, what do the rules state? You can make up your own rules for different things, but at the end of the day, there are a set standard of rules.
Yeah. So this is just, it happens every weekend at a level 2, and I don't fault people for it. But if you're a box owner, if you're a coach, if you're a box owner, you should lead by example, and you should know this, and that your team should know this. If you're a coach and you don't know these, do your due diligence to learn these. At the bare minimum, you will feel less stress when you walk out onto the floor and more useful because you will know what to look for at that point rather than just randomly looking around. When you see great coaches who are just cueing their faces off, it's not because they're randomly looking around hoping to find something pop out to their eyeballs. It's because they understand the rules and they're looking for something very specific at a very specific time. They're like, okay, I know in this portion of this progression, this would be the very common fault. Well, if I know that's the common fault and I'm looking for the common fault, whether it be something like an early arm bend in the Sumadov tie pull, well, this dictates what I'm going to start looking at. I will probably put my eyeballs on the elbow. I wouldn't be looking at the knee. That wouldn't make any sense. So again, it will make your life easier. Your athletes will move better because you will be able to cue them. But it starts there because we shouldn't be spending mental resources on something that we should just have at the tip of our tongue that has overlay into everything else that we do simply by knowing the points of performance.
Yeah, I'll throw out 2 challenges before we wrap up. Challenge number 1, box owners. Be drilling this to your coaches. At your coaches' meetings, go over them time and time again. There's never too much. We go through the points of performance and the faults as well as the progression every single Saturday at a seminar. We've worked hundreds and hundreds of these seminars. That's how you learn them. Challenge number 2, if you're listening and you're not a box owner, you're a coach, figure out why your box owner is not challenging you with this. Maybe if you're a coach that truly wants to get better at coaching, you need to be at the right box to support that. And if your box owner isn't developing you, A, with feedback, B, with things like this, like let's go over the points of performance, let's go over the progressions, perhaps you're not at the right box. And that's okay. Just go find a better one.
Or just improve that one. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.